Hey guys, so I was hoping to record this entry in a much more controlled setting or a much more familiar one, but home wasn't quite conducive and I was starting to panic because I desperately wanted to do this entry along with two other videos because I would roll them over the next couple of weeks and they are part of a series that I have been thinking about, but it seems like I will only have one entry recorded, but that's okay. So I had to think very quickly and on my feet about what I can do, because you can imagine it's autumn time. We have longer nights, shorter days, and not that much natural light to work with. And I thought, let me drive to a place close by called Fontaine. I'm from the far south, so in and around our area there's some farms, and then I thought, okay, let me just take a long drive on a Sunday. I mean, I like these things. Oh my gosh, guys. But I've just spotted like rolls of haystack and I need to show you guys because I get excited over such things, you know. Have a look. Isn't that cool? Oh my gosh. I hope you can see it clearly. I'm so excited. There we go. Finally focused. This is so cool. I get excited over such things because, you know, lack of exposure. But as I was saying, so I took a drive to this place and I'm gonna find a quiet spot because I really wanted to do this entry and I'm pretty excited about it. But first, I think I'm gonna have a little photo shoot right here. So now that I'm finally settled and I am done with my photo shoot, I actually wanted to reflect and say I'm very grateful for the fact that I got to drive out and sit here and I feel like I'm one with nature. I mean, my backdrop says it all, and it actually gives me an opportunity to, while I'm speaking to you, reflect on what I'm saying and sharing my journey with you. The reason why I chose to do this entry is because in a fortnight and a couple of days, I will be turning 30. There, from my observation, a lot of people really fear turning 30 and going over that point, because I think it's purely because of the standards that society has kind of held us to. For a lot of people, 30 means I need to have reached a certain point in my career. For some, it may be I need to have started a family, or that qualification that I have been promising myself, or that the world says by 30 you need to be a qualified so and so. Whatever the qualification may be or field that you may be in. You know, there's so many things that even the people that hold us account to don't even have. So I'm like, honey, don't come at me, because own pace, own race, right? So I think that's the reason why. And for me, it's all about, specifically in relation to this entry, it's about knowing my truth. And that's why this is part one of my Insecure series, where I actually, in me knowing and owning my truth, it means that nobody can come to me and make me feel embarrassed, because there's nothing to make fun of if the person you're making fun of is aware of the joke and there's no joke really, you know. But anyway, that's just me. So I wanted to talk to you guys about my journey in dealing with adult acne, because for the most part it has kind of overshadowed or had a strong weight in my 20s, because it affected a lot of areas of my life. Issue in itself has branched out in a lot of spaces in my life, whether it's my confidence levels or my attitude, my workspace, you know. But I will unpack it And I think, like I said, it's just me owning it and saying, well, I'm comfortable in my own skin. And I've had a conversation with a few of my older colleagues and friends who turned 30, and they all say one resounding thing. And they say, you know, when you reach 30 level, you don't care who says what to you, because you really don't care. You have gone through your 20s where you've been trying to please people, but in 30 you realize, man, what's the point? Because you know yourself just that much, and you know what you want, you know what you're all about, and you really know that it's your own race and you cannot compare. I read this quote and it says, insecurity is about comparing your behind the scenes with somebody's highlights. And that's just it. You don't know what happened in their behind the scenes, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, their life is so amazing. But we don't know what people go through on a daily basis for them to have that perfect Instagram post, that perfect Facebook entry, you know, all these things that kind of give us the facade. We don't really know what happens in the inside. So here's my journey with adult acne, and I hope it enlightens somebody. I hope it empowers someone. I hope you really get to see and know who Elle is through this. So I started breaking out around the age of 22, 23, and that was in the last year of my undergraduates. Yeah, I think somewhere around there. I had developed a cyst right here in the middle of my forehead, right here in the middle of my brows. And it was actually around this time of the year, I developed a cyst. It started like a very small pimple, and I know it's not related to this, but for me it felt like everything was just happening in an order that it was supposed to take place in. So I developed this cyst, and I remember 2 days before my birthday, I had been scheduled to go for an operation for it to be removed. And then after then, my skin just started breaking out throughout that year. I think I've always been a late bloomer, and for me it was like, oh well, it's acne, because I've always had flawless skin. I've never had to worry about using certain products. I always was a sunlight and just a Vaseline person, you know, applying it on my face. But that year things changed dramatically, and it had a knock-on effect on my confidence. And it then obviously it gradually it progressed over the years, and it just kept on getting worse and worse. But the one thing that I remember is how I faded into the background, and it just made me so conscious of myself and how people received me. For one, even though I knew that I was making absolute sense in what I was saying because I was the expert in that moment, you know, I would look at the person and started second guessing myself, because I didn't know whether they were really listening to me or they were looking at my skin and then diagnosing me and giving me a solution, like, you know. So everything for me was heightened. I kept on thinking, okay, am I making sense? What are you thinking? Why are you looking at me like that? You're concentrating a bit too much, so that means you're looking at that pimple and whatever. But yeah, it then made me more reserved, so I wouldn't put myself forward to do certain things as I would normally have or would normally do. And yeah, I started fading and I started keeping quiet. And it was just a terrible time, because people will then come to you with unsolicited advice, and you will meet. I met a lot of dermatologists who qualified overnight, and they meant well, really, they really did. But for me, I was like, you know how many, like, use tea tree oil, you must steam 5 times a week, do this. And desperate is as desperate does, you know, or desperate does as desperate is. And I then started over-the-counter medication or self. Obviously, you can't self-medicate acne. You know, you need a prescription. But I would get products off the shelf that would say, and Google was my best friend. So every time a new zit would come up, I would go on the net and self-diagnose. I'm like, that's different. So which product would go for this? And that aggravated my condition, because it's like adding a steroid to something that, you know, to treat something, and that steroid makes it worse because it would amplify the problem. And my skin got worse. I developed scars. And I remember, you know, people would say harsh things, and I don't think it was coming from a place of malice. And I remember this one incident where a friend of mine and I were taking pictures, and we were using their phone, and that the beautify, you know, capability had just been introduced. And we took a picture. Oh my gosh, guys, my skin was looking flawless. And this one person said, oh my gosh, this thing works. Look how clear little skin is. Oh gosh, my pimples were so inflamed. I remember not being able to sleep because they would be right on my cheeks and my jawline, and I couldn't use pillows. I couldn't sleep, guys. I had to find a plan. If sleeping while sitting was an option, it's something that I will go for, because they were so painful. But that's how inflamed my acne was, and even concealing it with makeup was an option. I did it, but I felt like makeup made it look worse. It was that bad. So my treatment options, I started getting treatment, I think 3 years ago. I went to a public hospital because I did not have medical aid, and I was in a field that where you had to do everything yourself. You know, when you work in that agency life and you think, I'm getting a lot of money, but they give you all that money so that you can sort yourself out, boo. But I didn't get medical aid because I couldn't afford it at that time. And I think if I had medical aid back then, it wasn't even 3 years ago, guys. I'm lying. It was 5 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago. And I think if I had it then, I think I would have come out okay, right? But then I fell pregnant, and obviously you cannot be on any skin treatment while you are pregnant. So I had to stop. My baby gave me a glow. My skin was popping during my pregnancy, guys. I bounced back properly. And then after that, I had to wait for a year. Or at least until after I stopped breastfeeding. Not at least, until I stopped breastfeeding before I could go on medication. So right now, I started going on my meds in January. I started on ThroughEllesEyes, and then now I'm on Oratin. But I will explain my treatment and my skin routine in the next 2 videos, because I did say the Insecure series is going to be a 3-part video that is going to be rolled over in the next. So the lessons that I've learned in the 7 years that I've had to deal with adult acne is it's not really as bad as I thought it was. Yes, it was bad in the sense that it was painful. These were huge pimples, but they did not take away who Lebogang was as an individual. I was still very loving, bubbly, fun, outgoing, and I think I'm a very funny person, and I'm not just saying this for the cam, but I'm a very funny person, and I think for most of the time I hid behind making jokes, cracking them, and just making sure that I was the life of the party. But also that was like very counteractive, because now I'm just being the life of the party, and I'm that girl with the pimples. Now all the attention is on me. But I learned to love myself and I learned to love my flaws. You know, I have a lisp. I embrace that. That broad nose, you know, that sometimes when you try and contour, it doesn't do the most. I just, whether I have, yes, days won't be the same. And I realize that just because you're having a bad day doesn't mean you're having a bad life. And really, I'm just fun, loving, caring. So I just got stopped from recording because somebody thought I would steal a sheep, guys. I mean, this pretty face. I think this is where this entry should stop. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to comment down below and let me know what your coming of age moment and excitement was all about. Whether it was when you were turning 21, 25, or 30, like myself. I'm very excited and I choose to embrace this period in my life because I feel like the 20s for the most part is clouded by doing things or swaying in whichever direction that the wind blows and doing things according to other people's standards and not because of you. It's very seldom that a 20-something-year-old would do, you know, things because they want to do them. But you know, most of our thoughts and actions are really influenced by external forces. And for me, 30 means just being unapologetic and dancing to the tune of to the beat of my own drum. And I'm just excited about this coming of age. So that's it. Before I ramble, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share. Love, Al.